Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Real Podcasters. This is a weekly podcast where we discuss all things movies, TV shows, video games, and a bunch of other things in no particular order. My name's Regan, as ever, and I'm joined once again by my delightful co-host. It's Dan.
Ari Mara.
Arit!
Ari Mara's how you gannon?
I'm sure we've talked about it before.
We've got to go a bit northern like every now and again just to remind our audience of how northern we actually are.
Yeah, maybe we need to pick a topic that's unbelievably northern and just speak entirely northern for the entire episode.
Or we just see a film in cinema that is absolute pants and we just rant about it in nothing but a Geordie accent and see how many people leave the video just knowing what the hell are these guys saying. I don't understand them.
That feels like that could be most of our episodes, though, especially if you're the type of listener who isn't northern, of which I know there's a few. There's one who lives in America for some reason. Well, not lives in America for some reason.
For some reason he lives in America.
That is not what I mean. But if I am going to talk about people who are subscribed, first of all, if you're not, please do. That really helps us out a lot.
That was smooth.
Yeah, very, very smooth. Made a shout out though to my good friend Nathaniel, who was recently subscribed to the podcast. I work with him as well. Thank you. He jumped on with our Batman 1943 episode, which was a handful, to be honest.
Yeah,
Batman was a bit more questionable back in 1943, as it turned out.
A lot less politically correct.
When has he ever been politically correct? All he does is just beat people up all the time. Every single night.
Yeah, okay, that is very true, actually.
Whether we put it like that, he's just always been politically incorrect. But yes, thank you very much, Nathaniel, for subscribing. And as I say, if you're not subscribed yet, please do. That really helps us out. Make sure you're watching, liking, sharing. If this isn't a podcast that you like, if you've suddenly decided, yeah, you know what, I don't want to listen to a podcast run by a couple of northerners, then, pick a different one, or just give it to someone else. Anything like that. Then again, you will be missing out on us this week discussing the legend. This is The Simpsons Hit and Run Away. Or just Hit and Run, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
In brackets, GTA for kids.
We'll get to that. But yes, we are discussing The Simpsons Hit and Run for its 20th anniversary. Once again, mostly just reminding ourselves that we are ancient and forever.
Is it really 20 already?
2003.
Bloody hell.
Just think of the games we got then, the hairstyles we had, the crappy music we had. This was the best thing to come out of 2003. He says, thinking about what else was in 2003. I think it was this. And Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. I think
it's probably those two things off the top of my head.
Yeah. But yes, talked about The Simpsons Hit and Run. Just before we get into it, though, of course, would you, Dan, like to give us a little brief synopsis as to what's going on in this game? What's happening to The Simpsons in the land of 3D?
I mean, there's definitely some 3D, but we'll get to that. But yeah, anyway, this is basically, from what I can call, I haven't been able to replay this, sadly, because just actually acquiring a copy of this game now is
quite difficult.
Incredibly difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it is very, very difficult. So I've tried searching on CD keys and just kind of looking elsewhere, but no luck. So from my very sort of faint memory of the plot of this beautiful game is essentially there's a new brand of soda released called Buzz Cola, and with Buzz Cola there are some consequences. There are CCTV wasps flying around the place, spying on the residents of Springfield, and it's up to the Simpson family and Apu for some reason. But anyway, we'll dive into that later. But yeah, Apu's there, and it's up to those. Well, it's up to the Simpson family, ... and Apu, to basically save Springfield from dangerous satellite wasps, I think. And evil Buzz Cola, apparently. Oh, and aliens, yeah.
And there's aliens. There's actually a lot that's going on in this.
It turns out the aliens are responsible for the wasps. I kind of forgot about the aliens.
Makes sense because much like myself, I've definitely struggled to play the game recently. I mean, I still have a PS2, I still have the game, have a smart TV, doesn't work. Really doesn't like it. It's just really, really flickery. I think if I had more time, I would have tried to connect the PS2 up to the external monitor. Might have
Yeah.
worked. Haven't done it. There's no space on the desk currently. So, that being said, we've both played this game at least 75 times. So, it's pretty easy to remember exactly what happens. And of course, just chat about it and some other things. I mean, I think for me, as is fairly obvious from the way I'm talking about it, this is easily one of the all-time greats when it comes to video games. Still for myself.
Definitely. There's absolutely no competition. I mean, there are a lot of great games out there. I mean, hell, Alien Isolation is another favorite game of yours. But Simpsons Hit and Run is just. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, Alien Isolation might be your all-time favorite one, but for me, it's always going to be Simpsons Hit and Run.
It's definitely one of, if not my most nostalgic video game. Easily.
Oh, yeah. That and I think GTA San Andreas, but they're kind of just level, really. I mean, both
Yeah,
very
San
nostalgic
Andreas
games.
to a point. I think that could be an episode next year, I think, because that's its 20th anniversary. Possibly. I'll think about it. Hadn't actually thought about it until just now. I'm just that good. But this and, like, original recipe Battlefront 2, some of the older Tomb Raiders, as I said, this. There's a lot of games that I do really, really love.
Oh, yeah.
But I think when it comes to licensed video games, this one is probably still the best. Alongside the likes of Alien Isolation, and if I ever got the chance to play it, instead of just watching it, Spider-Man PS4, probably. Those are just... This game just perfectly encapsulates the best of The Simpsons. And I know people have said many, many times, when did... interest in the franchise run out. Some have said after like season 10 to 12, so like early 2000s. Others have said this game, the Simpsons movie, which arguably maybe came out a bit too late. I still love the film though, it's brilliant. I still quote
fun.
it way too much.
Oh yeah,
like
me
it's a
too.
joke. But then I quote this a lot, like it's stupid. But for me, this is probably the last great moment for The Simpsons. It's just the best kind of tribute to it as well. And I do forget a lot how much of a fan I am of the franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, during COVID, when me and my girlfriend first got Disney Plus, one of the first things we did was just binge a lot of The Simpsons from the start.
I mean, there's like 30 odd seasons of them, isn't there?
Well, that's exactly that. Like, we absolutely burnt ourselves out on it.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Like, I'd struggle to want to watch a new episode. I could easily put on an old episode.
Yeah.
And the Simpsons movie lives rent-free in my head for the rest of time.
Lives rent-free.
Just constantly. Oh, yeah, it's just on all the time. And same with Hit and Run. If I got the chance to play it in any shape or form, I'm playing the damn thing. Don't care at what point it is. I don't care what level it is. Less level 5, but we'll get to that. But it's just an easy game to play, and it's just still, after 20 years, one of the most replayable games ever. Like, it does not get old. Even after you finished it, and you're like, I'll do it again. Why not? Because it just works like that. And I get the sense that your thoughts are probably pretty much the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've owned it on like the original Recipe Xbox, which, I mean, I can't remember too much of it, but then it was backwards compatible on 360, so I played a great deal of it on 360. I mean, it was quite weird because obviously the resolution was just not kind of up to speed with the 360 and stuff like that, so it was a bit jittery and stuff like that, but it was still absolutely brilliant. But it is up there with like probably one of my all-time favorite games. And there's a lot of good games out there, not just from like, older games, newer games, but definitely like one of the first ever video games I just played as a kid. And as you say, it's just so easy to play. There's nothing remotely difficult about it until you progress in the game, and then it gets infuriatingly difficult for like 20, 25-year-olds. It's still quite difficult.
Yeah, I can distinctly like recently I've been starting to replay the remaster for Destroy All Humans.
Yeah.
And the level of frustration I'm getting at, as in like swearing at a game like that, is exactly like it is. Like maybe in level 7, in most of level 7. Because that's where it gets absolutely, like, every single word out of your mouth. If it's not an expletive, it's just a different language. It's not English.
It's just some, like,
it's just
absolute,
rageful.
like, unknown dialect.
But it's weird
rageful.
because... Yeah, because it's weird because it's going back to when we talked about Halo 2, which was really frustrating. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
This was still really frustrating. But you still wanted to keep on playing, mostly just for the satisfaction of finally beating the Simpsons hit and run, as if it's like a life achievement. Like, beating Alien Isolation without killing any humans is a life achievement. It's nothing compared to completing the Simpsons hit and run without actually swearing. I haven't done it yet. And I'm 25. Haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I was going to say that kind of feels like more of a life achievement, because that achievement just seems absolutely impossible.
Impossible.
Whereas, I mean, like, you know, as a kid, I think if you did hit and run, I mean, I kind of felt a sense of achievement when I did hit and run. I was like, it's done. It's finally done. But then it's kind of like Halo 2. It's like, oh, it's done.
I'm done.
I'm
never
done now.
Exactly. We have spoken about Halo 2. We've played it together. We're never doing it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so talking about Simpsons Hit and Run. So this was initially developed as a successor to the Simpsons Road Rage, which was very much a parody of the Crazy Taxi thing.
I will briefly say I did play that.
I did as well. I didn't play it a lot. I played it after Hit and Run, so it felt like a downgrade, which is a bit cruel because it came before. But that was based on Crazy Taxi, which I never played, to be honest. I think my stepbrother Nathan had it, but I never actually played it myself. I found it quite annoying, frankly.
Yeah.
Like the driving mechanics. I mean, they're a driving
they're
mechanics
driving mechanics, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're cars. You can't actually get out, so it feels very archaic like that. So initially they wanted to do a successor to the Simpsons Road Rage, but I believe they had to change it legally because I believe the original developers behind Crazy Taxi tried to sue them because it was essentially Crazy Taxi with a Simpsons skin.
Yeah.
Because it was, essentially. So they both had to and also conveniently wanted to change it. So then, of course, we got the legendary Grand Theft Auto 3. I say legendary because other people think it is. I played about 10 minutes of it. I'm not that big on it.
Yeah, GTA 3 is... I've never been massive on GTA 3, in truthfulness.
No. Again, because I went to it after the sequels.
Yeah.
But that very much changed the entire gaming landscape, especially from a 3D open world perspective. So, I mean, the team behind the Simpsons Hit and Run were like, yeah, you know what? Let's try and do that, but with the Simpsons. So there's no killing, there's no murdering. Still run people over.
There's just very
bounce away instead.
Violent physics.
Yeah. So that obviously became Hit and Run eventually. Upon its release, much like it is now, it received extremely positive reviews from video game critics, with praise particularly focused on the interpretation of the Simpsons television series as a video game, its satirical take on Grand Theft Auto 3, the graphics, criticism-wise, mostly bits of the gameplay, plenty of bugs and glitches. No one cares. And it's often considered to be the best Simpsons tie-in game of all time. Second only to something like, I don't know, the Simpsons skateboarding. Not that, it's terrible. Hate that game. I don't know why I owned it, frankly. I didn't even like skateboarding. And my parents were like, here you go.
You know what it is? I think I owned it as well, and I never ever played it. I think I had it on PS2, never ever played it.
I was really awkward. I only ever played as Bart because he's the only character in the series that actually uses a skateboard. Like, using him with Marge just looks hilarious.
I can imagine.
Like, her head doesn't even move.
Yeah, because it'd just be like a pole piece, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a giant licorice on a skateboard, essentially.
What a time to be alive. I don't even know if that was before or after Hit and Run. I really hope it was before because it just sounds funny. But I don't know. I don't know when the whole skateboarding video game craze was because I don't care. I really don't care. But yeah, and the game, of course, was a commercial success, recorded sales of over 3 million units worldwide by July 2007, and it received the award for Favourite Video Game at the 2004 Nickelodeon Australian Kids' Choice Awards. Voted by
That's a bit
kids.
of a mouthful.
As in, like, the only demographic that is worth mentioning for this type of game has to be the kids' choice. And they're right, because it was absolutely brilliant. So as we mentioned, in terms of the core characters that you play, you portrayed the majority of the Simpsons characters. No Maggie, annoyingly. That would have been hilarious. No, instead you get...
kind of thinking about it. I mean, obviously we'll speak about level 5 in a bit, but I never understood why you could never like play as Grandpa Simpson, because it kind of made sense. If you're going to play as the Simpsons, why not like be very inclusive and just play as like the oldest generation of Simpsons?
Probably because you're going to have to slow the game right down. But also because the character is so easily confused, you're going to have to make the character extremely confused. So maybe if you went really trippy and made the world around him just completely false.
Oh, he had just some very funny quotes.
Yeah.
It's like after you'd run somebody over like 5 minutes later, it's like, oh, did I do something wrong?
I always like when he suddenly starts mentioning the war as if it's like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and it's just brilliant. Just honestly. But yeah, so you get to play as Homer, Bart, Lisa, Marge, and Apu. I still don't really understand why. I don't know if it's just because they had an extra level and they didn't know who to give it to, because you get Homer twice, you get Bart twice, and then you get Lisa and Marge once. So I don't know. I feel like you could have done something stupid with just having Maggie, to be honest. I think that would have been, even as like a mini game every now and again where like she just goes absolutely AWOL. I feel like that's a Maggie thing to do, but yeah, it also fits in with like
homage to the TV series. There's an episode where Maggie just like leaves the Simpsons house and goes looking for Marge. Mm-hmm. If you did something along those lines, and even if it was just like a couple of missions or so like that, I think it would have been a damn sight better than level 5, because it just feels very filler. It's like, oh, we have an extra level, we're not really sure what to do here.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, I don't really know why he's there. To be honest, everyone is pretty fun to play as. I mean, I'm just really nostalgic for playing as Homer in the first level, because you just always just hung around in that one, maybe level 2 a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably about the same for me as well, to be honest. Definitely like probably the first one, just for like how much time I spent on it, but definitely the second one as well.
Yeah. I also do really appreciate how well they're actually translated in 3D as well, like especially for like a 2D cartoon. It actually works really well, to be honest.
Oh yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Even if Lisa's hair is a bit weird, it's just like a constant sea of spikes every single time you turn her head. And I'm like, so she has spiky hair. Like you wouldn't have known that in the TV series because it's just flat, but then as soon as I went to 3D, you're like, oh, you've just got a million spikes.
My God, you're like a porcupine.
My God. It's like the things you learn about The Simpsons when they translate to 3D.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure happens. It doesn't happen in like a Treehouse of Horror episode. I'm sure Homer turns 3D, or it's like claymation and it just looks horrifying.
Oh yeah, I think it's like one of the first Treehouse of Horror, but he basically, there's like a universe behind the bookcase in the living room, and he goes in, he falls in, he transports like an entire world of 3D. Well, there's like people and that. It's so trippy. It's so trippy.
But yeah, I think as 3D, I think it works. But also what really works is the fact that you've got the voice actors from the game as well. That's really helpful.
Which I really do appreciate, actually.
Yeah, because I feel like more modern stuff might have just gotten with just any sort of voice actors, but you kind of can't with The Simpsons. Like, I don't think there's ever been another video game where they've not been in like the original voice actors, because it would just sound wrong, frankly.
Oh,
it would
yeah.
just sound really, really weird.
Very, very weird, and you'd take that whole nostalgia thing away, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, it's a bit like when we've seen more recent, like even like Marvel games that have decided to adapt bits of the Avengers, like even like the Marvel's Avengers game, which I didn't play because it was terrible. And people really hit out the fact that they didn't look or sound like the ones from the films because those looks are so ingrained in people's memory now. The idea of doing something else that looks a little bit different, like, nah, absolutely not. Hate
You've
it.
got to kind of love. I mean, I know we're talking about The Simpsons here, but you've got to kind of love how far Lego games have evolved. You know, we've went from like
in and of
the
itself.
grunts of like the and the and the to full-on voice acting.
Yeah, while I appreciate the fact that even like Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga has an option for like, I think it's like mumble mode,
Mumble
kind
mode.
of works.
Well, it absolutely is though.
It works a little bit. It doesn't work nearly as much as I think it should because you've still clearly got people talking and they're just grumbling over it instead, and there's no classic yo the death sound. It's just an updated one, which is just awful. It's terrible. Here we are talking about The Simpsons, and now we're talking about mumble mode and yo the death sounds. We knew this was going to happen. We're going to ramble because it's just a great game. But in terms of the story, it's just a classic Simpsons story just turned into a video game, and I really, really love that. Like, when you think about it, the whole crux of it is Kang and Kodos want to make a TV series. They're not doing very well, so they're just going to invade the Earth and just turn everyone into zombies and then just record it. I'm sat there thinking, that sounds quite meta. That sounds quite modern. Like, I'd expect that in a modern episode of The Simpsons, which is not good because I don't want to watch a modern episode of The Simpsons, but it actually works quite well for what it is, and it is just utterly stupid, much like the characters.
Oh yeah, but it works for something like The Simpsons because like some Simpsons episodes are just stupid. You know, that they're just daft humor, and this is what this game is. It's just absolute daft.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good
again,
daft. It was
works.
our daft.
Yeah, exactly. It was our kind of daft, which is just utterly stupid.
Yeah.
Like if someone has never played this game or even heard of it, it is borderline impossible to try and pitch it to someone and them actually liking it because it does sound utterly stupid. Whereas if you're our generation and played it religiously, like it is an actual religion to play this game, it's just easy to pitch. Whereas other people are like,
Oh yeah.
I'm just going to step away, you're talking weird again. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like favorite moments, it's a bit difficult to pick because every single level, less of level 5. Okay, you know what? Let's get out of the way. Level 5 is the worst one, just because it seems so utterly inconsequential until the very, very end, where it's like, okay, now we'll explain what's actually going on, and there's Kang and Kodos in a bath.
As I say, it was just like
when you
a
say
very...
that out loud, that sounds a bit weird, but
It was a very filler kind of level. I would rather them just have 6 levels instead of 7 if it just meant not having level 5, because it just felt absolutely pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, you could have done something with like Grandpa Simpson or Maggie Simpson. Like, you know, you're making a game about the Simpsons. I mean, yeah, Apu is like a character who does rock up in his own episodes every now and then, but he's in no way like completely tied to the Simpsons.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, in terms of my favorite level, despite how frustrating it is, I honestly would say
it's going to be
level 7,
isn't it?
Yeah, but you know it is. It's basically a Treehouse of Horror episode turned into a level, and it's just brilliant. And I do love a Treehouse of Horror, especially like old school ones. They're just really, really fun. And this one absolutely just goes all out. Like, yeah, you want zombies? You've got zombies. Would you like a UFO floating over the school? You're going to have a UFO floating over the school. Would you like to go into the UFO and explode?
Just sending NPC vehicles to their death in that UFO.
Peak cinema.
Classic.
It's peak cinema. This is like the running joke. It is
absolutely like a Treehouse of Horror episode, because like from the moment you load into that level, there's all the Halloween stuff in the Simpsons house. You go outside, there's all the Halloween stuff, and then like all the NPCs are zombies. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then all the vehicles are like Halloween themed. I think there was like the motorcycle was like a witch on a broomstick. There was like a ship, like a ghost ship thing with a captain with a lantern. There was a hearse kind of car. I think even the police cars had like a Halloween twist on them as well.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the best vehicle was definitely that like zombie car you could get with the skull exhaust. That thing was just stupidly broken, but yeah, it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, the zombie car was a bit knackered, I'm not going to lie. It was pretty silly.
Like, you just slightly tap the bumper and you just go, phew. It's like, Jesus.
I mean, we'll definitely get into the control scheme because, again, there is a scheme.
That definitely is a control scheme.
Yeah, there is. I'm not going to say it's very good, but we'll get to that. But yeah, honestly, I think what really helps level 7 as well is the score, because that Halloween theme when you're just driving around, again, much like the movie, lives rent free in my head.
Yeah, it's been ingrained in my brain ever since I played that bloody game.
Yeah, I wouldn't care. The soundtrack only just popped up on Spotify in its entirety, like the actual score.
Oh yeah.
So I just started listening to it again. I'm like, yeah, this still works.
Childhood
Even just like the little
relived.
cues. Yeah, and I'm not even
Achievement
playing the damn
unlocked.
thing.
Childhood relived.
Yeah, and what I also really like is the fact that you have to blow up the UFO 3 times, and you are actually killing the characters, which I find is actually a bit dark. Like you kill Professor Frink.
It's just
You
a
kill
little
Grandpa in the end. It's like, I smell toast.
I think he
It's
probably
like the
gets
last
like
thing you thought of.
the most explosive death ever. Because in that very last mission, I mean, it is by far the hardest mission in the game. And there are some pretty difficult missions, but it's how much time you have to do that thing. I think you've got just under 50 seconds to travel all the way from the nuclear power plant. And you can't even take the shortcut either. You've got to do the whole stretch of the map in under a minute, which may not sound like a lot, but honestly, the slightest tap on that vehicle and it would blow up, and then you're screwed. You got to do the whole thing again. The sweat that would be dripping off your hands and face was some next level intensity. Like, my God, it's if you ran a marathon.
Well, yeah, I mean, mission structure wise, if you've played a Grand Theft Auto game of the time, it's borderline identical, just kind of, slightly less violent. There's significantly less deaths. Except for the times when you actually kill the characters in the end, but we'll just gloss over that. But yeah, it is pretty much like tame version of GTA. As I said, driving wise, it's alright, but it's a bit too arcadey for my liking. Like, I think,
yeah, definitely with some of the vehicle models as well.
Yeah, not to compare it to Grand Theft Auto again, but if it was the control scheme for Grand Theft Auto 5, I'd be fine with that. Like, because that's arcadey, but at least it's drivable.
Yeah.
And at least it's not like Grand Theft Auto 4, where like all the cars just look like they're just sort of like bouncing around all the time. There's just like so much grip on the tires. Like, you can't drift in Grand Theft Auto 4. You can in San Andreas, eventually, as I figured out. But even in this, it's difficult. And like you say, with something like the zombie car, just like turn 1 degree, crash into a tree. Turn 2 degrees, fall off the face of the earth. Turn 3 degrees, you might as well just be in like a different game.
I think it was
no
that
way to
car
hold
and the car built for Homer, which I think are like the 2 fastest cars in the game. And honestly, the speed was just absolutely broken on them. And when you put in the cheats to make them go faster, it would break the camera. Like, the camera could not keep up with how fast it was going.
Can we just agree that the best cheat code was to use the horn to bounce the car?
Yeah.
Bounce it across the map.
X 5 times then Y.
Oh my God, it was actually that.
Yeah. See, all these years paid off. I could tell you every single bloody cheat code.
Yeah, I had them written down on like a folded bit of A4 paper, and I just stuck it in like the box. Just,
I did that
in
as
the manual all the time.
Just a crumpled bit of like lined A4 paper with like Simpsons hit and run sheets, and then every single one of them listed.
I mean, obviously, like mission structure wise, it is, fine. I mean, it's pretty repetitive. I mean, even with level 7 where you have to blow up the UFO 3 times, it still kind of works, but you do end up going through the same thing like over and over again. And I think that's only like the only issue.
It's just that little bit more difficult every time, I think.
Mm-hmm. As in, you just drop the you just sort of drop the runtime by 10 seconds each time, and it somehow
Yeah.
makes it borderline illegal, quite frankly.
It absolutely does.
Also, alongside the game, you've got like a couple of extra things to find. You've got the baseball cards, which you can find, which point out every single little bit of trivia in The Simpsons, and if you collect them all, which I didn't find out until years later, you unlock an Itchy and Scratchy short, which you can watch at the theatre thing. I know it has a name. I've forgotten the name of the theatre, but the one that's in level 3 and level 6. You can go there and watch a little short with Itchy and Scratchy, which I think is actually them using steroids to try and beat each other in a race or something, which I'm just like, that's very specific. Of all things. Just
You
like,
would think
okay.
it would be like one of the classic, like, let's just beat each other senseless with a baseball bat and sledgehammer. No, we're going to use steroids.
Just like the
bloody hell.
level that cattle go to.
Yeah, exactly. Jesus.
But then you've also got the collectible cars. Well, not collectible, but like the hidden cars.
Level specific secret cars.
Yeah, so you've got the rocket car in level 1, which
Oh god, that thing.
I'll say it right. I hate how easy it is to destroy a car in this game, but it's hilarious to do it with the rocket car because it's even easier. Just like turn a little bit, just bang, gone.
It's like three or four taps and that thing just turns into an absolute fire wreck.
Yeah. Level 2.
Because then
You've
2
got
was the destroyed monorail, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It's really annoying how a lot of that stuff I recognized after the fact. Like the monorail, I hadn't seen the episode with the monorail, so it meant nothing to me. Monorail!
Monorail. Don't.
And that is now the theme tune to the Real Podcasters every single week now. Thanks, Dan. Really, really appreciate it.
What was the one in 3? Because I think the one in 3 was like a weird like car boat hybrid thing that was on the like giant ship.
I don't know the context of the show's reason for it, but that's it in that one. Level 4 has a quad bike, which I forgot about. That's in the caravan park next to next to Tire Doom. Level 5 has the monster truck, which was fun. Level 6 though, can you remember which one it is? Because I had to Google it just now.
It's the where you go down to the dock and there's the weird like planet calf thing and the car is like launched into the actual building.
For years I didn't like. I assumed level 6 didn't have a car because it was so
I was
well
in belief
hidden.
of that as well because it is definitely the most well hidden car because I mean you have to go through hoops to get that bloody thing.
And then level 7 you have the tiny remote control car, which is just hilarious. To be honest,
it's
I
on
love
top
that
of
thing
the
so much.
the Krusty Burger.
Yeah, I was just about to call it the Krusty Krab. I've got too much of this, too much of SpongeBob on my mind again.
Now that would
really
be a
awkward.
mashup. SpongeBob SquarePants and The Simpsons. My God.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet.
Me too, actually.
It hasn't happened yet. I mean, I don't know which is my favorite of like the hidden cars. Probably either the rocket one or like the RC car, just for how stupid they are. Although driving around in the monorail looks hilarious.
Yeah, I'd say the monorail for how silly it just looked because you've got like all these normal road cars and there's just Bart Simpson in a really like dented and dinted monorail just speeding along the freeway.
Mm-hmm. Well, we say speeding. We're just sort of driving along. It definitely isn't quick.
Oh no, it wasn't. You had to use that speed cheat, which was like X 5 times, and then if you wanted even faster, it was Y 5 times. And it would just, as I say, like the camera could not keep up with it. It was very broken.
No, definitely not.
I think the
there was
rocket car was probably the most nostalgic for me.
Yeah. But mostly just because you did spend more time on level 1 or level 2, so naturally the rocket car is going to end up coming on top.
Yeah.
There's also some bonus racetracks that pop up. I think it's after you complete all the main ones in each level, which I'll confess I very rarely did. I didn't really care too much.
Yeah.
So I didn't play them that often, even though that was going like full on original recipe Grand Theft Auto.
I will
just like
say,
full on top down and just
yeah, they were so annoying.
yeah, yeah.
The races that you do in the main game, when I was a kid, I could never do them properly, so I had to put in the cheat that when you're in a vehicle and you hit cars, they explode. And when you just destroy all the other cars, and the NPCs would just sort of stand in the road like, I guess I'll just stand here. This like Bart just stood next to us, like very, very burnt to a crisp little car, and you're just like, bye, Bart. Just speeding past them doing laps, and he's just stood there T-posing.
Oh god. But yeah, I mean, just like the little Easter eggs and stuff. It's annoying how a lot of them I didn't get until after the fact, just because. Yeah, I did watch a lot of the old Simpsons back in the day, but I think in reality it was mostly the Christmas ones. I always remember like the Christmassy ones, like even like Skinner's Sense of Snow or Miracle on Evergreen Terrace. Those ones were always my like kind of stuff. And there's just so much I didn't realize I actually knew. It was like, oh yeah, I knew about that.
Do you remember some of the bonus missions aside from, because obviously like in levels sometimes you'd get like maybe 2 or 3 bonus missions?
You know, I'm actively trying to remember. Only a little bit.
Because there was ones for Homer where you, like, obviously with the vehicles, like some you could just buy from like Gil and that.
Oh Christ, yes. I mean, like there was certain.
But then like very
where you
specific ones you had to do missions for. I think Cletus was probably one of them. But to get like his truck, you had to do like a couple of missions as Homer, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
My
I'm
God,
sure.
That thing was crap.
Yeah,
it's so slow.
You know, I think the car that I always drove the most, just for fun, was honestly in level 6 with the Globex Corporation car, but always dressed as Batman. Just for some reason, that sort of image of him in that car. Again, I didn't realize the context of Globex until I saw the episode.
Yeah,
which is brilliant. I love that episode so much. Or even actually, you know what? Professor Frink's hover car, I think, is probably my favorite.
Oh yeah, because when you speed invisible. In it just goes invisible, doesn't it?
I love it. And even just the noise it makes, I'm like, this looks perfect. It's beautiful. It really is. And then, of course, you've got like the family sedan and the honor roll and all that. So again, just like classic staples. Even the Canyonero is there as well, and it's hilarious.
Marge's lines when she has road rage in that game is just so funny.
Road rage. Building. I didn't do it.
But I liked how like the characters had their own like vehicle as well.
Yeah.
Because that was quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, even like Lisa has like the Malibu Stacy car. I'm like, of course she does.
Yeah, like absolutely, of course she does. Marge has the Canyonero because of course she does. Homer has the dented pink iconic family sedan. Bart has the
It doesn't have a roof.
It doesn't have a roof, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it was weird. Like anytime I went back to watch the show, I'm like, hang on a second, it didn't have a roof. Oh, the game doesn't because it's just easier to render for some reason. I'm just like, again, a lot of my nostalgia comes from the game instead of the TV show, and I feel really bad occasionally for that because I'm like, well, no, the sedan didn't have a roof.
Mine was honestly the same. Because I watched like a lot of the older stuff, and then when Simpsons Hit and Run came out, obviously they were still doing Simpsons, so then like a lot of the older references I went back and I was like, oh, so that's where it's from. Like I had to kind of remind myself of where it was from, really.
Yeah. I love how on like the structure for like the replayed series that we do, I put on mention anything to do with multiplayer if it's useful. There isn't anything on that, so instead I've decided to replace it with remaster. Now, I'm not going to suddenly reveal that there is going to be a remaster. I'm not going to suddenly drop the bombshell on you, Dan. Even though the developers have said they would like to see a remaster, though it seems like that's out of their hands, probably just down to rights.
Yeah.
But there was a YouTuber recently going by the name of Rubes who single-handedly remastered
he
the first
remade
level.
the entire game on his Todd, which I have a mountain of respect for.
So you did actually see them then?
Oh, I've watched it all, mate. I've watched it all.
Thank God. I wrote it in the script assuming you hadn't actually seen it. No, you have. Okay, excellent. I can cut out all that. That's excellent. But yes, I mean, he was able to actually put all 3 hub worlds together, which, to be honest, I find it a bit unfair that we weren't able to get that, considering that Jack and Daxter came out a couple of years prior, and you had
Yeah.
an entire open world all together with, I think, like brief, very, very brief loading screens. I feel like it's probably like a resources thing. They probably didn't have enough. But he was able to combine them all together, but he put all efforts into remaking level 1. Everyone looks pretty similar to the actual TV show now, rather than like the original 2003 kind of 3D stuff. But it's done in Unreal Engine instead.
Which just
Which
it looks absolutely ridiculously good. Like
It's
it really
annoying.
does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
like
it's the thing
it
because
is,
like
it is annoyingly good because
Yeah.
I want to play it.
yeah, and I do as well. I mean, obviously, we're now at the 20th anniversary. Nothing's happened. It's a shame, but at the same time, I'd be worried that like a remaster would then tarnish what came originally. Like even playing the Destroy All Humans remake, because I do love Destroy All Humans. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Replaying that now, and it's there's like a little bit of it that's missing. And I
Yeah.
think it's just that authenticity of the time where that pushed the boundaries. Same with Hit and Run. Nowadays, it can't unless you just completely redo it. And I think if you did do that with Hit and Run, you're only really going to be appealing to the adults now, not kids.
Yeah.
The adults talking about
Definitely.
it. The 25-year-olds that are reminiscing on a game from 2003, and you know, back in my day, all the graphics were what is all in 3D. What a time to be alive. But yeah, he was able to actually recreate it for the most part. I mean, the AI was a bit iffy, to be honest. I did laugh really hard at how easy it is to blow up Smithers. Like, he's just sort of like wallowing around in the car every now and again, and you're just like, just gonna wait. Just gonna wait. Well, bang! It's surprisingly easy. And you can't actually get in. You can't actually get into the car. It's like getting into the NPC cars where you just sort of morph in.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh my god, those NPC models. Cursed. So cursed.
You gotta love though if you like if you turn like the camera behind, if you're in like an NPC car and like your character turns as the steering wheel turns, but you're not actually driving, whereas the NPC
Yeah,
one just,
it's the
just
really-
as static as anything.
It's the really badly rendered non-playable character in the vehicle who's actually driving, but you're turning. It's like you're pretending. It's like, yeah, I am doing it.
Yeah. That being said, I mean, those are like when you get into like the nitpick levels of this could have been better. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, because at the end of the day, in terms of like final thoughts and stuff, this is still brilliant. It still really is. And
Oh
again,
yeah.
neither of us have played this for a very long time, but you don't need to. Like when you've played it that often enough, same with the Halo games, you just
just gets
know
ingrained in
exactly
your
how
head.
you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great for that. Like there's really not many other games I can think of off the top of my head where I could talk about it. It's like when we talked about Doctor Who. I could do it for hours and not get bored. I could do the same with Hit and Run. I could explain every single little bit of that game and still find something else to talk about. It's mental.
Yeah.
And again, for a 20-year-old game.
I love how when you did like the collectible side of it and you got like the Buzz baseball cards, like there was one on Marge's level. I mean, Marge has some absolutely hilarious lines in that game, but one of the cards is it refers back to the episode when Homer does like the calendar shoot, like the sexy calendar shoot, and he's in like the fireman's gear, and you pick up the card, and one of Marge's lines for that is this will be Marge's little secret, and then you see the card, and you're just like, yeah, but it's no wonder you're saying that's a secret. It's like, yeah, you keep that to yourself, Marge.
It's just the most authentic version of The Simpsons, and yeah, it's still brilliant. And as I said at the beginning, it's still like the last time beyond the movie. I think the series for me was like truly great. Not
Yeah.
that we're ever going to discuss modern Simpsons because I'll just get angry at the shorts that are on Disney Plus because I hate the majority of them. So
But you know
much.
what it is, like, for a game that has a very, very simple structure, and yeah, as you say, it is absolutely repetitive because it's basically follow something, collect something, or blow something up. It's like one of those three structures across the entire 7 levels, but it's absolutely fine. because it's still entertaining as hell.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's great for that. And as I say, it's still just really special to me. It's still one of the most nostalgic games for me, easily. And as I say, I'm surprised we didn't completely go off the rails, much like the monorail, just going into completely random territory beyond talking about like the Wasps and a bit of other games and whatnot. But it's just easy to because it's just fun to talk about, and that's why I enjoy doing this sort of thing. Just like we don't have like a specific thing to talk about. Let's just talk about this and just see what the hell happens after half an hour to 40 minutes.
Mentioning the difficulty, when you got to the other levels, I hated when the Wasps had those shields around them. Those little bubbles. They made them so much more difficult to kill.
It's a shame that there was never a cheat code to add weapons. Because I feel like you had to at that point, just like, right.
You know what it is? I think I ended up getting so annoyed with... I think it was just getting a collectible, but I ended up putting like the flying car cheat in. But it turns out if you just like, you know, honk the horn and fly into the Wasp, it still destroys it.
I've never thought to do that.
Oh yeah, it totally just
20
destroys
years on
it.
and I've never thought to do that.
Aye.
But this is back in the day where like you could have like the cheat codes in and also save your game without any worry of it getting like broken or anything, whereas nowadays you can't do that. Heaven forbid you think about doing that.
It's weird how much it's changed.
All of a sudden, that's now an entire episode dedicated to how cheat codes in games have gotten worse. There's no flying cars.
You put them in on like a modern game and it's just no fun.
No,
because
no
it's just like, oh yeah, no achievements can be unlocked. You're quite restricted with your saving. And it's like, oh, all right.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Monsters. Damn it, Rockstar. It's their fault.
I remember the other cheat, which was it was a cheat code that basically replaced all the secret vehicles in the game with like this weird little cardboard box that was red and it had little like wheels. It was like a little cart.
Yeah, actually, I can remember that. To be honest, that actually just driving around in a destroyed car as it just sort of like lumbers along the road, just like really
oh my god,
slowly.
the sound it made as well. That horrible grindy sound it made.
Yeah, I'm thinking of fingernails on chalkboard levels of ew.
Oh yeah,
and that's already
absolutely
quite
was.
ew.
It absolutely was. I don't know how my like however old I was ears put up with that. Because I would spend absolutely hours just in this destroyed ass car while every other NPC just speeds past you. Yeah.
The one time the NPCs actually beat you when you're not even racing.
Yeah.
Oh god. What a game, man. What a game. But yeah, that is... I mean, I think that wraps up our rambling thoughts on the Simpsons Hit and Run. It was never not going to be rambling, as if
oh, absolutely not. There was no way this was going to have any kind of structure.
Oh lord, no! I really wouldn't want it for something like this. I'm just going to gush about it the entire time because it's just easy. It's just fun. I mean, hell, we forgot to mention the graphics. They are from 2003. The end.
Yeah, they are. I'm kind of glad though, like they kind of just put the resources into just making like the playable characters a bit better than the NPCs, because I mean, the NPCs are incredibly cursed.
They are cursed and stupid.
Like Carl in particular, goodness me, he's just next level demonic. Like honestly, audience, just type in Carl from Simpsons Hit and Run and have a look at that thing's face. It's demonic. It would make a better jump scare in the nun than the actual nun would be.
The Carl.
The Carlining.
The Caldering.
The Caldering.
the Conjuring 3. The Carl made me do it.
I loved how you could go into I know we're like just literally rambling before the end here, but I loved how you could go into like the occasional like building as well. Like there was the well, obviously there was the Quickie Mart, but you could do like Easter eggs and stuff in them as well. Yeah, the school. There was Mr. Burns' office. Oh, that thing. Hated that.
There was the massive like chessboard that he has outside his actual mansion as well.
Oh, the fun I had kicking all those chess pieces down.
Yeah. There's the inside of the ferry. There's the lighthouse. I'm trying to think actually in level 2. I don't know if there is any. Now I'm actually thinking about it. I don't know if there
Moe's
actually is
Tavern.
any. Yes, Moe's Tavern. I don't know if you can go into the
The
what do
legit
you
gentleman's
call it?
club. I think that might
that
have been
one.
one. Yeah.
That's really funny if you can do that.
Because I know
in a
there was an
Simpsons
Easter egg on the top of the building where it was to do with like the rat milk.
Oh yes, yeah,
yeah.
I remember now. I was actually thinking like you could go into the museum, but that's only in the actual cutscenes. You can't
Cutscenes.
actually- Yeah, there's so much I've actually forgotten that we didn't actually mention. But again, because there's so much to discuss, we'd have to make this a 3-hour episode, and we're not doing that anymore.
The Simpsons hit and run cut.
Yes, the Simpsons cut.
Simpsons cut.
Release the Simpsons cut. Just like a lot of slow-mo and just so many explosions and metaphors of Jesus. We're not getting into the Snyder Cut again, sort that. I think we should end before I start ranting on about the bloody Snyder Cut again.
Yeah, let's get this over with.
Yeah, but yes, that's our thoughts on the Simpsons Hit and Run. Some thoughts, some rambly thoughts. Yeah, it's just nice to talk about and to celebrate its 20th anniversary. I'm now
Yeah,
gonna whisper
we're
it, it's
getting
freaking me
old.
out. I'm so old. But thank you very much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed us. As we've got a ton of other episodes available on the channel, on YouTube and Spotify, and a ton of other places. Make sure to check it out. Next week we're sticking with video games because I've had to do a little bit of tweaking to the schedule because Star Wars was so kind as to release an extra episode of Ahsoka on the same day. So next week we are going to be discussing another anniversary, going back to pirates and stabby things and boats and hunting down whales. This is, of course, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, if it wasn't obvious enough.
Yeah, I was kind of
This is
just like a
Dan's
bit,
face, just
a
like,
bit
just
stunned
getting
there. I
really
was like,
confused.
this is
Just
news to me.
Just like, what game is this? Have we put? Oh yes, of course. You can hunt down. You can hunt down.
It was the
Moby
whale
Dick
part of it
himself.
that I was like, oh yeah, it's Assassin's Creed 4.
Oh yeah, that one. Yes, and hunting down monkeys and pigs and stuff as well. For some reason, you can do that. I don't know why. Frankly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be celebrating its slightly less interesting 10th anniversary. 10 years. Jesus. Not nearly as iconic as 20 years, but if it, we might celebrate its 20th anniversary in 10 years if we're still doing this.
I mean, we'll be doing this podcast until one of us just drops dead, really. Let's face it.
We will be it'll be like something from I Am Legend. We are the only people left on the planet, and we've still got something to talk about every single week, and no one can listen
Like
to us.
90-year-old Dan and Regan in a care home stinking of Velcro and piss. And they're just like,
That's very specific.
so Regan, what anniversary we're celebrating today? Oh,
We are celebrating ours. Are we? I don't know.
Assassin's Creed 4, the 50th anniversary. What? Assassin's Creed 4? What?
We're actually going to do the 2021 Film Awards again, and hopefully it doesn't end. Don't listen to that one, please. It's terrible. Anyway. But yes, next week we've got Assassin's Creed 4 to chat about, so make sure to stick around for that. Thank you very much for listening, as ever. I really do hope you enjoyed us. And until then, it's goodbye from Dan.
Ta-ta.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.